The higher your spirit climbs, the quieter your world becomes. Not because you hate people, but because your energy no longer aligns with the noise around you. If you're the chosen one, solitude isn't loneliness, it's evolution. 1. You were set apart for a reason. Chosen one, you're here for a reason. And know this moment is not an accident. There's a reason why these words have found you. Right here, right now. At this very point in your life, because deep down, you've always felt it, haven't you? That quiet nudge in your spirit, that whisper saying, you don't belong like everyone else. You're different, marked, set apart, and you're not crazy for feeling that way. You didn't stumble across this message by chance. You were guided here by something far greater than coincidence, because the time has come for you to remember who you really are, and to understand why your journey has been so different from everyone else's. You've been chosen, and with that comes weight, purpose, clarity, but also isolation. Let's be honest, you've felt it, that strange sense of disconnection, that spiritual loneliness, the deep hunger for meaning that no one else around you seems to understand. From a young age, you've probably wondered, why do I feel so distant from everyone? Why does it seem like I just can't fit in, no matter how hard I try? And here's the truth. It was never a punishment. It was preparation. What you thought was a curse was actually protection. You weren't meant to blend into the crowd. You were meant to rise above it. This message isn't just information. It's confirmation. A divine reminder that your separation from others was part of your sacred design, crafted to keep you in alignment with your higher purpose. Chosen one, there's a reason why being around a lot of people drains you. There's a reason why you often feel overwhelmed, even in a room full of smiling faces. It's not in your head, it's in your spirit. You're different because you were designed to be. You carry a spiritual frequency that most can't comprehend. And when that rare energy comes into contact with the noise, confusion, and unconscious chaos of the world, it clashes. You may walk into a room and suddenly feel heavy. You might find yourself exhausted after social gatherings while others seem energized. That's not weakness. That's spiritual sensitivity. It's your soul saying, protect this energy. You weren't meant to stay here too long. Most people live unaware, moving through life asleep at the wheel, but not you. You've always seen deeper, felt more, sensed the invisible. You were called to awaken, and because you are awake in a sleeping world, the divine has placed boundaries around your journey. Certain people can't get close. Certain environments don't feel right anymore. And that's by design. You weren't called to live like the masses. You were called to lead. Your quiet nature is not weakness. Your solitude is not failure. Your distance is not rejection. It's all part of the sacred blueprint you were born with. You are the light in the dark, the calm in the storm, the one who sees through the illusion while others stay comfortable in it. But that light often comes at a price. You'll be misunderstood, misjudged, sometimes even resented. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your very presence activates something in others, something they're not ready to face. Your spiritual presence is like a mirror. It reflects truth that many aren't ready to acknowledge. And because of that, you'll notice people pulling away, or worse, trying to pull you back into their chaos. Don't fall for it. You were never meant to lose yourself in the crowd. You were meant to rise, to remain aligned, to stay sovereign. And if you're feeling this in your spirit right now, if something inside you is lighting up, comment Wonder 11 below and claim it. Let it be your public acknowledgement. I am one of the chosen. I see the signs. I feel the truth. Because the truth is, you're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're not too much. Your sacred dot and that energy, that calling, that fire inside you, it needs to be protected at all costs. The Most High has limited who can access you. Not to punish you, but to preserve you. Let that sink in. Before we go deeper, take a breath. Tune in to how your body is reacting to these words. Feel it. This is more than a message, it's a shift. It's a soul-level unlocking. You're not alone in this. You've been feeling the tug for a while now. Feeling like something big was coming. Well, it's here. This is your moment of remembering. Remembering your path, your purpose, your role in this life. The reason you felt disconnected from the world is because you were never meant to follow its rules. You've always had a different assignment. And yes, this comes with responsibility. It comes with solitude, with stillness, with seasons of waiting, with tears cried in silence and strength gained in shadows. But it also comes with power. You have a divine appointment. You've been entrusted with rare spiritual awareness. You see things others don't. You feel shifts before they happen. You carry wisdom beyond your years, and that's not by accident. Chosen one, your journey hasn't been easy. But that's because you're being prepared for something far greater than average. You're being refined, spiritually armed. Made unshakable. So if the crowd doesn't get you, good. If people fall away from your life, let them. If certain rooms feel too heavy to enter, trust your spirit. You were not called to fit in. You were called to lead. To be the light, to speak the truth, to walk the sacred path few are strong enough to follow. And every season of isolation you've walked through has been molding you for this moment, this awakening, this revelation. So hold your head high. Embrace the separation. Step boldly into your purpose, because the chosen are rising. And now it's time to uncover what that truly means. 2. You were hidden for protection, not rejection. Let's talk about something most people won't understand. You weren't just overlooked. You weren't just left behind. You weren't forgotten. You were hidden. And there's a difference. Because when you're rejected by people, it hurts. It stings. You start to question your worth. You wonder, why don't they choose me? Why don't they see me? But when you're hidden by God, that's sacred. That's strategy. Chosen one, hear this in your spirit. You weren't left out. You were kept safe. There's a reason the door didn't open. There's a reason they ghosted you. There's a reason that relationship didn't work. There's a reason you didn't get that opportunity you thought would change everything. And it wasn't because you weren't good enough. It wasn't because you lacked value. It was because your spirit was being protected. See, people only look at the surface. They see potential in terms of performance. But the divine sees destiny. And sometimes, when you carry something sacred, you must be shielded from the very environments that would poison your purpose. Because not every space can hold someone like you. Let me say that again. Not every space deserves someone like you. That job you didn't get, it couldn't contain your calling. That person who left you, they couldn't recognize your light. That door that slammed in your face, it was sealed shut so you wouldn't settle for less than you were meant for. You weren't denied. You were divinely redirected. But I know how hard that is to accept in the moment. You sat in silence. You questioned your worth. You wondered why people around you were celebrating while you were stuck waiting, watching, wondering. You looked up at the sky and whispered, "Why not me?" But you never realized what was happening behind the scenes. You thought you were being delayed when really, you were being developed. You thought you were being overlooked when really, you were being overprepared. You thought you were alone, but the whole time, you were being anointed. Because the greatest assignments require the deepest isolation. And no, not everyone around you will understand that. Most won't see what's inside you. They'll judge you by what they think is missing. But they can't recognize divine favor because they're too busy chasing worldly attention. Let them. You weren't called to be loud. You were called to be clear. And that clarity comes in the hidden place. The wilderness, the waiting room, the season where no one's clapping for you, where no one's calling your name, where no one even knows what you're carrying. But that's the sacred space where warriors are forged. That's where character is built. That's where discernment is sharpened. That's where your soul becomes undeniable. So if you're in that quiet, hidden place right now, don't despise it. Lean into it, because you're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're being taught how to hear the whispers of your soul, how to silence the noise of the world, and how to stand firm even when no one's watching. That kind of power can't be bought. It can't be faked. It can't be copied. It has to be earned in silence. And when your time comes, when God says, now, you won't just enter the room, you'll own the room. Because you'll be walking in with power no one saw coming. Why? Because you were hidden long enough to become unshakable. So instead of asking, why was I rejected? Start asking, what was I being protected from? You think you wanted that relationship, but what if it would have robbed your peace? You think you wanted that job, but what if it would have crushed your purpose? You think you wanted that friendship, but what if their presence would have dimmed your light? Don't trade divine alignment for cheap approval. Don't settle for being seen by people who only value surface. You've come too far. You've been through too much. Your journey has been too intentional for you to start begging for crumbs from tables that were never yours to sit at. You're not desperate. You're destined. So if the phone isn't ringing, that's okay. If the stage isn't ready, that's okay. If the spotlight hasn't found you yet, that's okay. Because when God reveals you, it won't just be a moment. It will be a movement. And those who ignored you, they'll wish they had treated you differently. But don't even worry about them. Your focus is not revenge, it's elevation. You're not rising to prove anything. You're rising because you were called to. So keep building in the dark. Keep trusting in the quiet. Keep holding on to your sacred knowing, even when no one claps. No one comments and no one cares, because eventually, they'll all see what you knew in your soul all along. You were never overlooked. You were just hidden for a time such as this. So stand tall, chosen one. You don't need their spotlight. You carry your own. And when it's your time, nothing and no one will be able to dim it. 3. They betrayed you to awaken you. Let's get honest for a second. The betrayal wasn't an accident. The heartbreak wasn't random. That knife in your back? It was the very tool that carved out your awakening. I know you didn't want it to happen like that. You trusted them. You showed up with your whole heart. You believed in their words, their promises, their loyalty. And then just like that, they flipped. They vanished. They showed you who they really were, and it crushed you. But what if I told you that betrayal was your breakthrough in disguise? See, some awakenings are so violent because they have to be. Otherwise, you'd still be asleep, still settling, still tolerating crumbs, still clinging to people who only love the weaker version of you, the version that was easy to manipulate, the version that questioned your worth, the version that bent over backwards just to keep peace. But you're not that version anymore. Why? Because pain matured you, betrayal sharpened you, and rejection gave you clarity. You saw their true colors, and it was ugly, but it was also necessary, because the truth is, the same people who said, "I got you," were silently hoping you'd never rise. They liked you better when you doubted yourself. They liked you better when you needed their approval. They liked you better when you played small, because your light made them feel like less. But now, Now you've outgrown the version of you they could control. And that scares them. It's why they ghosted. It's why they talked behind your back. It's why they started acting weird when you started healing. Because healed people become dangerous to those who thrived off your dysfunction. They knew that if you ever realized your worth, really realized it, you'd never chase them again. You'd never beg again. You'd never let them sit at a table they didn't help build. And that's exactly what happened. You didn't just walk away. You woke up. And when you did, you stopped seeking closure. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped overgiving to those who never deserved your energy. You stopped trying to fix what was never your fault. That's the moment you stepped into your power. Listen, the betrayal wasn't to break you. It was to break you open. So you could see. So you could remember who you are. So you could return to your own voice, unfiltered, unapologetic, undeniable. They didn't just betray you, they birthed you. Because without that moment of pain, you might have stayed asleep. You might have spent another year trying to fit in. Another year playing nice, staying quiet, ignoring the knot in your gut telling you, this isn't love. This isn't friendship. This isn't truth. But now you know, and that knowing that clarity is the beginning of something sacred. You're not bitter, you're awake. And there's a difference. Bitter hearts carry resentment. Awakened hearts carry wisdom. You're not walking around with vengeance. You're walking with vision. You no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. You no longer crave validation from those who once mishandled your soul. You no longer entertain energy that drains your peace. Why? Because you remember now. You remember who you were before the world told you to shrink. You remember that you are not just someone's afterthought. You are not someone's backup plan. You are not someone's emotional punching bag. You are the storm they didn't see coming. And no, you're not heartless. You're just finally healed enough to stop tolerating what broke you. The people who hurt you, let them go. Not with bitterness, not with anger, but with elevation. Because the best revenge is not revenge, it's refinement. It's rising so high that the old version of you becomes unrecognizable. It's walking into rooms they said you'd never reach. It's building a life so rooted in peace, power, and purpose that their names don't even echo in your spirit anymore. Not because you forgot what they did, but because it no longer defines you. They tried to bury you, but they didn't know you were a seed. And now you're blooming. Not for them, but in spite of them. So stop questioning why it happened. Start asking what it taught you. What did that pain reveal? What did that silence show you? What did that betrayal activate in your soul that had been sleeping for too long? Because you don't come out of that kind of storm empty-handed. You come out of it reborn, smarter, stronger, softer in all the right ways, sharper in all the necessary ways. And one day, you'll look back at the betrayal that nearly broke you and say, thank you, not because it was right, but because it woke you up. 4. Your silence is a weapon. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. No words, no explanations. Just silence. And let me be clear, this silence isn't weakness. It's not surrender. It's strategy, because when you stop reacting, you start controlling the narrative. They expect you to lash out. They expect the dramatic response. They want you to beg, plead, over-explain, justify. But when you go quiet, it terrifies them, because silence sends a message. I no longer need to be understood by you. I no longer care enough to convince you. I've said all I need to say, now watch what I do. That's when the power shifts. You see, the loudest person in the room often feels the most insecure. But the silent one, observing, calculating, evolving, that's the One to watch, because silence doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've outgrown the noise. There comes a time in your life where the most valuable thing you can offer is your absence. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding. You stop chasing people who run the moment you set a boundary. You stop entertaining conflict with people who only feel powerful when you're unstable. And you start conserving your energy. You start mastering your emotions. You start moving in silence with precision, discipline, and purpose. Because here's the truth. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't scream for attention. It moves quietly, but leaves loud results. That's the beauty of silence. It doesn't defend. It exposes, it doesn't react. It reveals. And sometimes, your silence will hurt them more than any comeback ever could. Because when you stop talking, they're left alone with their own guilt, their own conscience, their own thoughts replaying like a broken record. Why did they go silent? Did I lose them for good? Were they stronger than I thought? And the answer is yes. Yes, you were. You weren't just strong, you were unshakable. Because you finally realize this. You don't need to fight for a place at a table where your presence is barely acknowledged. You don't need to keep proving your value to those who only notice when you're gone. You don't need to shout over the noise when your silence echoes louder. Let them underestimate you. Let them call you cold, distant, emotionless. They don't know what it took for you to stop reacting. They don't know about the nights you cried in silence. The self-control it took not to answer that text. The courage it took to walk away without closure. The strength it took to sit with the pain, instead of distracting yourself from it. But you know, and that's enough. You know that silence isn't passive. It's protective. It guards your peace. It protects your mind. It reclaims your dignity. Because not every battle is worth fighting. Not every insult needs a reply. Not every betrayal deserves your emotional investment. Sometimes the only response is no. Response. Because peace is more valuable than being right. And clarity is more powerful than revenge. Your silence will teach people what your words never could. It will show them. You don't need their validation. You don't crave their attention. You're not emotionally dependent on their reaction. You're indifferent. And that is what rattles them most. See, when you were reactive, they had control. They pushed a button and you danced. They said something hurtful and you defended. They ignored you and you chased. But now you don't flinch. You sit in silence. You move with grace. You let your absence speak volumes. Because what they never expected was for you to go quiet and stay quiet. They thought you'd eventually reach out. They thought your silence was a tactic, not a transformation. But silence has changed you. Now you understand. Silence isn't the lack of communication. It's a form of communication that only the wise can read. It says, I've seen enough. I've felt enough. I've healed enough to walk away. So let them wonder. Let them scroll through your old messages. Let them overthink the last conversation. Let them realize too late that your silence was never empty. It was full of truth, full of boundaries, full of strength. And one day, they'll miss the sound of your voice, not because it flattered their ego, but because it reminded them of the love they lost, the loyalty they betrayed, the peace they disrupted. But by then, you'll be long gone, not bitter, not broken, just better. Better because you stopped needing closure. Better because you stopped over-explaining. Better because you learned that silence is the most powerful response you'll ever give. So the next time they try to pull you into chaos, don't shout, don't beg, don't explain. Just smile and go quiet. Because your silence, it's not weakness. It's not surrender. It's the sound of power. 5. Outgrow everyone who once broke you. You don't get stronger by staying broken. You don't evolve by reliving the same betrayal. And you sure as hell don't grow by staying loyal to the pain that nearly destroyed you. So let's make something clear. This next chapter of your life, it's about outgrowing everything and everyone that once broke you, because they never expected you to rise. They expected you to stay small, stuck in the memory of what they did, trapped in the identity they assigned you, defined by the moment they left, lied, or betrayed you. But growth is rebellion. It's your soul saying, you don't get to write my ending. You see, when they tried to break you, they weren't just trying to hurt you. They were trying to contain you. They wanted you to shrink. They wanted you to question yourself. They wanted your self-worth to be tied to their approval. But what they never saw coming was your healing. Not loud, not flashy, but silent, powerful, and permanent. Because outgrowing someone doesn't mean hating them. It means you've reclaimed your narrative. You've stopped asking why they did it. You've stopped rehearsing the betrayal in your mind like a bad movie. You've stopped needing them to see your value. And that's when the real power shows up. When you stop hoping for an apology and become the person who no longer needs one. When you stop looking back, because the future you're walking into is too bright to miss. When their name comes up and you feel nothing, no bitterness, no ache, just freedom. That's growth. They may have broken a version of you, but not the final version. Not the one who rose from the wreckage with sharper eyes and a stronger spine. Because pain has a strange way of refining you. It forces you to choose. Break apart or break through. And you chose right. You chose to learn from it. You chose to level up. You chose to build a life that no longer includes people who once played with your sanity like it was a game. And here's the thing, you don't need to prove them wrong. You just need to keep becoming the kind of person who no longer even thinks about them. That's the win. That's the revenge, when your peace speaks louder than your rage. When your growth humbles them more than any insult ever could. Because people don't get to break you, then watch you stay down. They don't get to disrespect you, then keep access to your heart. They don't get to ghost you, gaslight you, or betray you, and still rent space in your head. That version of you, the one who tolerated it, explained it away, stayed quiet about the hurt, that version is gone, buried in the lessons, replaced by someone who finally said, I deserve more than survival. I deserve peace, and peace doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't fight for people who treat loyalty like an option. Peace simply says, if I had to lose you to find myself, it was worth it. So outgrow them, outgrow the games, outgrow the patterns, outgrow the version of yourself that thought love meant suffering, because it doesn't. Love doesn't confuse. It doesn't punish. It doesn't disappear when things get hard. And if someone left when you needed them most, let that be your clarity. They were never your home. They were just the storm that forced you to build one. Brick by brick, boundary by boundary, standard by standard. And now you're unrecognizable. Not because you changed to impress them, but because you changed to save yourself. They'll feel it. Trust me, they'll scroll through your photos in silence. They'll replay the memories in their head. They'll wonder how someone they tried to break turned into someone they can no longer reach. And you'll be too far gone to notice. Too invested in your peace, too focused on your path, too evolved to look back. Because the higher you rise, the quieter it gets. The distractions fade. The wrong people fall away. The noise dies down. And in that silence, you'll hear your true self again. The one you buried beneath other people's expectations. The one you forgot in the middle of all that chaos. The one who always knew. Was never meant to stay broken. You were meant to rise. To transform. To outgrow what once tried to contain you. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them spin their stories. You've got healing to do. Dreams to build. A legacy to create. Because your growth, it's not just for you. It's for every version of you that thought you wouldn't make it. It's for the little moments when you almost gave up. It's for the silence you endured, the tears you swallowed, the dignity you reclaimed. So the next time you think about the people who broke you, just smile and keep walking. Not because you forgot, but because you've outgrown the need to remember. You're not broken anymore. You're becoming. 6. You don't need closure, you need clarity. Let's stop pretending that closure is always coming. That the people who hurt you will one day wake up, feel guilt, and explain themselves. That they'll sit across from you, say the perfect words, and finally make it make sense. Let me save you some time. Closure is not guaranteed, but clarity? That's always available. And here's the truth most people won't say out loud. The ones who hurt you the most usually walk away with no explanation, no apology, no responsibility. They vanish. They ghost. They move on like nothing happened. Because deep down, they know if they stayed, they have to face what they did. And some people would rather live with guilt than confront the truth of how much damage they caused. So you wait for a text. You wait for the apology. You wait for them to show up different. But they don't. And the longer you wait for closure, the longer you stay trapped in their shadow. You replay the memories, trying to figure out where it went wrong. You blame yourself, thinking maybe you were too much or not enough. You hold on to the fantasy that they'll return with answers, when deep down you know, they already gave you closure. It was in their silence, in their avoidance, in the way they disappeared when things got hard. Closure is not a conversation. It's a realization. It's the moment you stop chasing validation from someone who never deserved access to your soul. It's when you decide, once and for all, I don't need your explanation to move forward. Because clarity doesn't come from their mouth. It comes from your own mind. You get clear when you realize you didn't deserve to be ghosted. You didn't deserve mixed signals. You didn't deserve to be lied to or manipulated. You didn't deserve silence when all you offered was sincerity. Get clear when you stop romanticizing the person they pretended to be and start seeing them for who they actually were. You get clear when you realize their actions were never about your worth. They were about their inability to show up like an adult. That's clarity. That's healing. That's how you let go. Without needing a single word from them. Because if they had the emotional maturity to give you closure, they wouldn't have hurt you in the first place. Let that sink in. You don't need to hear, I'm sorry I broke your trust. You need to say to yourself, I now trust myself enough not to let that happen again. You don't need them to admit they were careless. You need to acknowledge your own pattern of tolerating inconsistency, so you can break it. Because closure isn't an ending. It's a decision. It's you deciding you've had enough of waiting. Enough of explaining your pain to people who aren't even listening. Enough of needing people to fix what they never valued. And maybe the hardest truth of all, they already knew they were hurting you. They just did it anyway. So stop waiting for closure from the same person who was comfortable causing the wound. You deserve better. You deserve clarity. And clarity says, they left. That's all the answer I need. They were inconsistent. That's all I need to know. They disappeared without explanation. That is the explanation. No need to beg for more. Clarity also means looking inward. Asking yourself the hard questions. Why did I ignore the red flags? What part of me was trying to be chosen instead of respected? Where did I betray myself just to keep someone else comfortable? That's not self-blame. That's self-ownership, because you can't heal what you won't face. And clarity begins when you turn the lens inward, not to shame yourself, but to empower yourself. This isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. It's about saying, I'm no longer available for people who make me feel like I'm hard to love. Because love shouldn't confuse you. It shouldn't make you question your worth. It shouldn't keep you guessing. Love speaks in consistency, in presence, in effort. Anything less than that is noise. And sometimes the reason we don't get closure from other people is because life is pushing us to become our own closure. To say, I didn't get the apology, but I forgive myself for staying too long. I didn't get the explanation, but I no longer need it to grow. I didn't get the happy ending, but I am becoming the happy ending. And look, you might still think about them. You might still miss the connection, the moments, the version of you that existed back then, but that doesn't mean you go back. It means you're healing. It means you're human. It means your heart is still open, and that's beautiful. Because the goal is never to become cold or closed off. The goal is to become clear. So clear that you never again settle for someone who leaves you questioning your value. So clear that you can spot emotional immaturity a mile away. So clear that peace becomes your new normal and anything less feels like chaos. You don't need closure to move on. You need a moment of truth with yourself. A moment where you say, they broke my heart, but they don't get to keep it. They walked away, but I'm still standing. They left me in confusion, but I choose clarity. Because in the end, the most powerful closure doesn't come from their mouth. It comes from your strength, your decision to end the chapter, and start writing a new one without them in it. A chapter where you're no longer haunted by questions. A chapter where your peace isn't dependent on someone else's guilt. A chapter where your healing no longer waits for their words. You don't need closure. You need clarity. And now you have it. 7. Your peace is your power. There's a power that doesn't yell, doesn't boast, doesn't threaten. It doesn't need to, because real power feels like peace. In a world that runs on noise, where everyone's trying to be the loudest, the flashiest, the most seen, the strongest man in the room is the one who doesn't need the room at all. He doesn't perform. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't explain himself to people who don't even listen, because he knows silence is strength. Stillness is clarity. Peace is the highest form of power. And yet, that kind of peace is the rarest thing on earth. Because it can't be bought. It can't be borrowed. It can only be earned. Earned through self-control, through restraint, through the discipline of not reacting to everything that pokes at your ego. Because anyone can throw a punch. Anyone can scream, lash out, post online, chase revenge. But to pause, to breathe, to walk away with your dignity intact, that's mastery. That's what Stoicism is about. It's not passivity. It's not weakness. It's a refusal to let the chaos outside disturb the clarity inside. And that scares people. Because when you can't be provoked, you become untouchable. When your peace doesn't depend on their apology, their validation, their reaction, you become someone this world can't control. And that, my friend, is dangerous. You see, most people are reactive. Say the wrong thing, they explode. Look at them funny, they snap. Disagree with them, and suddenly it's war. They're slaves to their emotions, to their impulses, to every fleeting insult. But a stoic man, he observes. He feels, but he doesn't flinch. He understands that not every battle deserves a sword. Some just deserve your silence. That's not giving up. That's choosing peace over ego. And when you start living that way, you'll notice something. People won't know what to do with you. They'll try to get under your skin and fail. They'll expect you to argue, but you won't. They'll want you to explain, but you'll just nod and move on, because you're no longer in the business of convincing anyone. You're in the business of protecting your peace, and your peace, it becomes your shield, your filter, your weapon. Because peace isn't passive, it's selective. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to fight and when to walk, when to engage and when to exit without a single word. That kind of discernment, it's lethal. It means no one gets to control your emotions unless you hand them the remote. And you don't do that anymore. Why? Because peace is not just an emotion. It's a boundary, a line that says, I will not be dragged into your chaos just to prove a point. I will not trade my calm for temporary satisfaction. I will not lose my soul arguing with someone who's already lost theirs. That's strength. And strength rooted in peace is unshakable. Look, anyone can be loud. Anyone can clap back. But it takes a different kind of power to stay grounded in the face of disrespect. To feel the heat and not burn. To feel the pull and not be dragged. To feel the insult and not respond. Because when you understand your worth, you stop giving discounts to people who can't afford your attention. And don't get it twisted. Peace isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about choosing your conflicts with wisdom. It's about asking, is this fight worth my energy? Will this argument lead to clarity or just more noise? Is this person even capable of hearing me? And if the answer is no, you choose peace, not because you're scared, but because you're focused on your growth, your vision, your healing. And healing requires space, silence. Peace becomes the garden where your future grows. And here's the truth most men never hear. You don't owe your energy to every confrontation. You don't owe your explanation to every doubter. You don't owe your reaction to every trigger. Your power lies in your restraint. The man who can remain calm in chaos, that's the man who wins, not because he dominates others, but because he's mastered himself. That's what Stoicism teaches us. That you can't always control the storm, but you can control who you become inside of it. And when you become unbothered, you become free. Free from needing to be understood. Free from needing to be right. Free from needing to always have the last word. Because none of that is peace. That's ego dressed in armor. But peace, real peace, it's quiet. It's steady. It's sacred. And in a world that runs on chaos, a peaceful man is the ultimate rebellion. So be that man. Be the one who isn't moved by noise. Be the one who doesn't need revenge. Be the one who walks away, not because he's weak, but because his peace is more important than proving a point. Let them think you're soft. Let them call you cold. Let them wonder why you never reacted. Let them underestimate the man who refuses to be triggered. Because the day you stop fighting battles that don't serve you is the day you become unstoppable. Your peace is your power. Guard it like a kingdom. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. And remember, no one can take your peace unless you give it to them. And from this moment on, you don't. The more you protect your peace, the more you'll outgrow the noise. So stay sharp, stay grounded, stay alone if you must. Because not everyone is meant to walk with you where you're going.